Kia ora, good afternoon and welcome to Hampton Downs International Raceway. It's just about 40 k's south of Auckland on a beautiful Sunday. You could call it a super Sunday considering if you've been watching on the Stuff Speed Hub, some of the racing we've already had today. It is a warm day here on the grid, getting ready for race 2 in the Castrol Toyota Formula Regional Oceania Series, the reverse top 8 grid from the opening race. Stephen McIver with Ronan Murphy. This creates some fun, doesn't it? And considering now you've got your championship leader coming off 8 and Arvid Lindblad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a chance to shake things up a little bit and obviously gives the guys a chance who were at the back end of the top 8 yesterday a chance to race from the front and hopefully try and come away with a strong result.
Well, you called the Toyota 86 race and that was just wild, and that was a reverse good race and such good racing.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it's just so cool to see, you know, so many young, it was on for young and old out there in the Bridgestone
Why did you look at me when you said
Cup.
old?
Yeah. But no, it was on out there for young and old, and no, it was great to watch, heaps of action, and yeah, it was really, really interesting to see how the results came out. Obviously, young Australian guy, Lachlan Evanet, came away with the win.
All right, let's talk about this one. Front row now, 8-9. Sebastian Manson comes off P2. And then you've got Nikita Johnson, the youngest here in the grid, coming off P1. They are teammates with M2 Racing, and neither have finished outside the top 10 this season so far. What does that say to you, and what would you expect to see on the opening lap?
Yeah, well, obviously the key to, you know, being successful in a championship is consistency. You know, it's one thing to win races, but it's also another thing to always make sure you finish more than anything. Always need to score points, but also to be in a good position when you're finishing. And ideally, you want to be in the top 10, top 8. Obviously, being in the top 8 is pretty valuable in this because if there is a reverse grid race, then that you can potentially be starting off the front row like these two.
You've been in a position as a young driver, and you maybe in a reverse grid race, you've started off the front. Pressure, how do you handle that pressure, particularly into the first corner?
I think a little bit's obviously you probably want to have to some degree a plan. It might not always go the way you want it to,
yeah,
or to plan, but obviously to have an idea roughly of what you want to achieve out of the first lap, where you'd ideally like to be, because then if it does all go the way you hope and the way you plan for, then you want to know what you're going to do next to try and pull away and try and win the race.
Before we just go to row 2, have you seen any change in the track? A lot of the other classes have said it's better, some are saying it's worse. What are you seeing from the early races this morning?
Some of the classes were pretty fast. I think, you know, this morning when the UV's low, the temperature's a bit cooler as well, not as much sun out, it means that the engines are usually going to produce more horsepower in the cooler temperatures, and the UV means the track's a bit cooler, so generally means the tyre's not going to overheat, or, you know, less chance of it overheating. Obviously now it's warmed up a bit, beautiful day here in Tikawata at Hampton Downs International Circuit, so, you know, certainly the conditions have warmed up a bit, so we'll have to wait and see.
Let's move on to row 2 because we've got M2 on the front row and then we've got M-Tech on the second row. Sean Rashid in the 32 car, Patrick Hoytsenroder from Australia in the 5.
Yes.
Lots of talk about Hoytsenroder. Seems to be going okay, doing okay, but just can't seem to deliver.
Yeah, he's clearly got a lot of potential, and he's been doing a good job to date so far. But this, again, great opportunity here for him to try and perform. He's off the second row of the grid on the outside there. Key thing as well, being on the outside, obviously you want to be on the inside for the corner at the first corner, but being on the outside, you're on the racing line. So that's where all the cars have been driving all day. That's where all the grip and all the tyres have been putting down the rubber. So when you go to get a launch and try and gain traction off the line, that's the place you want to be.
36 track temp, 27 in the air, so it's a beautiful warm day here. As we go back down, Will Brown, of course, running off row 3. We've seen him do that, I think, in Taupo before, and he gives it a good nudge, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does, and obviously he's reigning Australian supercar champion, so heaps of potential there and heaps of know-how of how to win races.
Championship leader, right? Arvid Lindblad said in the press conference yesterday, there's no way I'm going to be able to make it to the front. And this is about aero wash. Explain simply to folks what is this aero wash doing when you're trying to follow a car?
Yeah, so aero wash is caused by the wings and all the aerodynamic devices, I guess you could say, on these formula cars. So the wings cause turbulent air as they cut through the air, and that then, on turn, when it comes back onto the car following that car, that hot, disturbed air increases the front tire pressure. It means that your car's not traveling through the air as efficiency, so your aerodynamics can't do their job properly on your front and rear wing. So therefore you effectively lose downforce and you lose grip from that.
Is it amplified more because we're basically running a one-make model?
Oh, yeah, I think that certainly plays a part and it makes it hard. Obviously, it's different in Formula One with so many different cars made by different teams. But in this, it's certainly very hard to make a difference. But that's where drivers make the difference. And that's what teams, bigger teams in other categories are looking for.
All right, here we go. It's race number 2, round number 2 of the Castrol Toyota Formula Regional Oceania Championship, live from the Alliance Services Hampton Downs International Weekend here at Hampton Downs. Time to go racing. Let's get busy.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, we are set fair here at Hampton Downs. A slight breeze here, as you can see from the flags, but we are about to go off on the formation lap. Jonathan Green and Andrew White and Greg Russ will be in the pit lane as we go on the formation lap. And the conditions are set fair. And Andrew, this is always fun, as Stephen said, because of the reverse grid, and see if any of the top men can come through.
These are the races that can win or lose championships. How good you are getting through that traffic and making sure that you keep it safe, but also get the passes done. This is where experience really shines, and guys like Will Brown, who's had a lot of experience with these sort of races, is going to be someone to watch. We've got Arvid Lindblad. He's very, very fast. We saw how fast he was in qualifying too. But off the front row, we've got the Kiwi, Seb Manson, and Nikita Johnson.
Yeah, Nikita Johnson's best chance of a win so far. He's been quick and improving it, but he hasn't had the results yet. And as you say, Manson alongside him. Rashid gets his best start of third, and Huizenrode is due a podium. He starts fourth. Pearson fifth, and Will Brown, remember his last day of racing here before the Grand Prix. Schooler starts seventh, and Arvid Lindblad. Those are the two we're going to be watching in seventh and eighth, as they won first and second in the previous race. Shin and Crosby start 9th and 10th. Then Jet Bowling 11th, and Nicholas Stati, the Australian and teammate Bowling, starts alongside. Enzo Ye of Taiwan starts 13th. Barrett Wolf of the USA 14th. James Lawley of Canada 15th. And Matthias Zagazeta starts 16th after problems he had. And Nicholas Monteiro also having a few problems himself, including a penalty for the next race coming up from a ride height infringement. But all eyes on the all-grey number 17 M2 competition, and Nikita, I've been talking to his dad and Nikita, he is due a win, and he's very confident. Remember, he reminded me that Mason is his teammate, because I said, can Mason pass you on the outside? And he said, no, because I won't give him any room, and he's my teammate, so I'll tell him that.
Yeah, the two teammates off the front row. It's certainly going to be an interesting one, with Manson starting on the preferred line, as you would say, with the amount of grip that's out there from being more of the racing line. But then at the same time, you've got Nikita Johnson, who's on the inside line, but a bit of a dirtier track. So it could go either way at the start here. We've seen the front row being pretty good so far in all the races we've had over the weekend, that it hasn't affected cars too much. So it's going to be fair game down into turn one.
And just so you understand, that was a conversation about Nikita saying that basically they need, as a team, to get through the first corner. There'll be no argy-bargy, and if they've had a quiet word, it would be, hey, you can attack, but not on the first corner, mate.
Absolutely. We've seen as well just how important the start of these races are as they make their way into their grid boxes. Getting the engineers to
Notice
guide them forward.
Mason a long way back
Yeah,
from his
Manson's-
actual position, so he's already put himself at a slight disadvantage, but a little bit of wheel spin, and it'll be even Steven. Lovely shot from the drone. You can see Arvid Lindblad there in the Red Bull colours just behind Will Brown. It'll be interesting to see how those two go as they both want to come forward. Perfect conditions here at Hampton Downs. This the reverse top 8 of the top 8 from race 1, and that's why those who are 7th and 8th start 1st and 2nd. Keep an eye on Manson, but watch Nikita on the left-hand side of your screen. Can he get the whole shot? Lights go out, and away we go. Good start from both Mason and Nikita, but a really good start from Huizenrode, who tries to go around the outside, but slots into 3rd and gets ahead of Rashid, or does he? Yes. So into 3rd goes the Australian. And a good clean start yet again. Shin right in the middle of it in the 23. Here comes Manson. Now he can challenge his teammate. But that's good defensive driving from the young 16-year-old American, who goes slightly wide and gives Manson an open door. And Manson says thank you very much and takes the lead of the race.
Great job by Manson there as well. And the other one to look at as well is Lindblad. He's already
look at him go.
fighting for 3rd place.
Yeah, he's up to 4th. He's got past Brown, and he started 8th. What a start. What a sensational start by the championship leader. He was asked at the press conference yesterday if he could make it 3 in a row, and he said, no, not from 8th. I'm not so sure.
Also a great start by Will Brown as well, as Lindblad goes defensive.
Brown's got his tail up. You can see now he's got the red mist down as the two Red Bull boys go wheel to wheel. Brown now to the outside at Porsche. Oh, go on, Will. Tries it, doesn't quite do it. It's very hard around the outside there, but he was willing to give it a go, and again he's trying.
Yeah, now what this is going to do is it means that Lindblad, he's stuck on the inside line as Will Brown knows he purposely held him down there. And this is where, for Will, he's going to do everything he can to get the best possible exit. But you've got that aero wash, as Ronan was talking about a bit earlier.
Rashid.
So hard to stay in behind a car.
Wheel on the grass for Rashid in the all gold.
Got to make sure you get the best possible run onto that straight. Massive tailwind down into turn 1, so the slipstream effect isn't quite as much as you'd otherwise like, as Schooler has a look up the inside.
Yep, Schooler looking for positions. Oh, and he sends one of the Americans wide, and that was a big moment. But Manson has done a really good job of gapping Johnson in 2nd place, and the battle is on for 3rd. Shin looks up the inside. Pearson's there.
A little bit of locking up ahead as well, but Schooler, out of everyone, he's probably the one that didn't quite get as good a start off the should we call it the back row of the front guys on position 7 and 8. He just got a little bit bogged down there, but he's starting to find his pace now and settling in nicely.
Well, remember, this is 18 laps, this reverse grid race 2, so it'll be over fairly quickly, and they'll want to push on. One more feature race to come, but a good racy start and a great start from Manson. We haven't seen the best of the young Seb Manson. He's still a youngster. He did some partial season last year because he wasn't old enough, I don't think.
Yeah, he's made a great start here, and done a few rounds into last year, which has been super helpful for him to come into this year. But what a start of the race for him, for Manson as well. He is also the fastest car on the track. He's got the fastest first sector, the fastest second sector. He is starting to pull away as the Kiwi.
Yeah, really impressive. Obviously inspired by fellow Kiwi Schooler, who's had definitely the headlines of the championship so far, for Kiwis anyway. But this will be a great moment for Seb Manson. Family here this weekend, as always. In fact, Dad Racing, I think. Nikita Johnson in 2nd place, Patrick Huizenrode in 3rd, Arvid Lindblad still 4th, but what a start by the man who started in 8th position. He'll pick up really good points, and if he can get on the podium, that would be a clean sweep of podiums for him so far.
Will Brown seems very good through this section. He gets a bit of pressure from behind from... You can see there, I'm just watching as they go through turn 4 and 5 there. Will Brown very quick through this part of the track, but again, it gets very fast through this part of the track. So you start getting that aero wash. You start getting understeer as you arrive up to turn 6 and 7. This point here, fast, flowing, bumpy through that part there. The wheel moves in your hand as you're trying to turn in. The wheel bounces back out of your hand. You've got to fight the car super hard through there.
In the press conference yesterday, everybody said the best place to avoid aero wash and make a lunge is at 8. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a good spot to be able to do it if you get it right. It's about also making sure that when you arrive at turn 8, you're close enough, because there's so much the corner before so fast that with the aero wash, you end up getting left behind just a little bit. So it's about just fighting through that as much as possible to get as close as you can.
Out of the last corner and up the hill they come again to complete another lap. It'll be 4 laps down of the 18. Here's the start. Keep an eye on Lindblad because obviously he made a miraculous start.
The other one to keep an eye on is Will Brown as well, because going down into turn 2, he was already 4th, so you can see him going around the outside, and same as Lindblad. Both of them, fantastic start around the outside. And what that also does, when you run around the outside, you see Will Brown, he nearly made his way up to 3rd.
There's Lindblad up the inside.
And then he's got both on the exit. So Will Brown tried the outside line, didn't quite work. And then that's where Lindblad was able to run around the outside. So that outside line can be risky, but at the same time, it can work really well.
And here's Brown going through Porsche and trying to get along. Well, he does get alongside, but he can't make it stick because he just runs out of room, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. There's no way to get right around the outside of that corner, but it's still worth running wide to show you've got the speed to be able to make the car in front, just narrow them up a little bit so they can't get the exit.
Talking of speed, look at Sebastian Manson go. 1.5 seconds now. He's gapped to second place Nikita Johnson, who had the pole, remember. So very impressive by the young Kiwi. And Nikita Johnson, runner-up, remember, in USF Pro last year, as well as doing GB3, 2 wins there. So bags of experience with the young 16-year-old. Here he comes. Now Huizenroda trying to put pressure on him. Through the last conflicts they come. Keep an eye on Schooler as well. He's right there with Brown. You can see him just in the distance there in the bright yellow. That's Josh Pearson, who's just behind Schooler. In fact, Schooler has dropped to 7th. Pearson now up to 6th. That's what confused me for a second. There you see it confirmed. Zach Schooler, what a weekend, what a couple of weeks he's had. He must be flying high, but not really on the pace at the moment. He needs to get the hurry up. He's got Rashid behind him, Shin 9. Crosby rounding out the top 10.
This thing starts settling down just a little bit in this race. Everyone's sort of finding their position. Not a lot of moves going on at the moment. Everyone just looking ahead, trying to pan out where they've got the advantage over the other cars around them.
Got a theory. What about Manson putting Q2 tyres on for this race, given that he hasn't got the the best of positions for the for the feature race?
There's definitely a high chance that that's what they've done. They might have put those better tyres on to give them the absolute best possible chance. As
look at it. Kenny Smith, royalty in the house.
Great to see him here.
83 years, young and still racing. He should be on 60 Minutes, let alone be at a racetrack.
And still doing a great job. You never know, he's probably bought his race helmet to jump in a bit later on if need be.
Yep, he's always ready to go, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and just go from 83 to 16.
Just trying to back up your theory there with Manson maybe being on those fresher tyres. So you've got to sort of consider where he's qualified for that big race this afternoon, because if you qualify well this morning for the race this afternoon, it could be worth saving the tyres and sacrificing this race. So he's sitting 8th. He's sort of on the bubble whether or not you should run the good tyres for this race. So there's a high chance that he is running those tyres, but at the same time, no matter what, either way, he's doing a great job out front. Super smooth, super consistent, and also, he's in this position now where he's able to sit there and manage those tyres and look after them, and these could be the tyres that he ends up using because he's got no cars in front, making it a bit harder. When you're behind other cars, you work your tyres a lot harder. So the best thing he can do now is manage that 2-second gap and save these tyres as much as he can for the race this afternoon.
I was going to say, what makes me think that is that yesterday they were saying that the tyre degradation of the tyres as they go off and lose grip is not as bad here, and so therefore, Lindblad said they can last the whole race without any problem, and that was him saying that. So, it's worth, pontificating about it, but right now it doesn't matter because he is up the road. 1.8 seconds now he's increased it to, and Nikita, try as he might, he's got other things on his mind, like holding this Australian, Patrick Huizenroda, being looked after by the great David Brabham of Simtech fame back in single-seater times, and of course he's done so much more racing after that in sports cars, but I remember in the days of him racing that Simtech F1.
Lindblad now starts putting even more pressure on Huizenroda out in front. You can see the way the car was moving around down into turn 1 for Lindblad. He's got all sorts of pressure on the back of Huizenrode now.
Does he jink to the inside and make a move? Not this time.
Thought about it. You can see just fake to the right just a little bit, just to try and make Huizenrode look in his mirror to cover his position. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to put yourself in the mirror of the car in front as much as you possibly can to make them look back at you rather than looking forward. Force him into mistake. Force him to make a lock up and run wide.
Just touched the grass for a moment there and a little bit of dust flew up, but it didn't slow him down any. You know, we've talked a lot about this aero wash thing. The point is, they all know it's happening. Lindblad, for example, looks quite comfortable in that wash. And as long as you can, you know, be aware that it's going to happen and you've got to deal with it, that's the way you race. Let's head down to Rusty.
Just dropped into M2 competition and spoke with Sebastian's engineer just in relation to your question about fresher tyres. They've absolutely done that. He's not saying too much on the radio. The pre-game conversation was all about kind of maximising the start, being patient and making the most of this situation. He's doing that right now.
Great stuff. Greg Russ down in the lane for us and confirming that the reason, well, one of the reasons Madsen is going so well is he's got fresher tyres perhaps than those behind him. And now the gap officially 1.7. They're going to cross the line again. We'll see if it changes. And it does, just by a tenth, but it's 1.8 now. Race settling down. No movement, really, since we got underway and Lindblad made that amazing start. And I don't think there was any question that he jumped the start. I think he just got the advantage actually at turn 2.
Skeff starts closing in behind Huizenrode at the moment. He's at that point now where he's starting to look back rather than focusing forward, and that's what's creating that effect behind where everyone is starting to close a gap up on him because you get so focused on what's happening behind to cover your line that you end up falling back into that car even more so, and that's what's exactly happening now. And we'll see Lindblad do everything he can to try and get that move done as early as possible so he doesn't chew those tyres up. You've got to remember these tyres, for all these guys, have already done one race. They're now on to the next race. And, you know, each race is just under half an hour long, so it's a lot of time on these tyres to then have to go again. So these tyres, by the time you're qualifying race 1 in this race, have done well over an hour's worth of running.
What I love about the race factory that is New Zealand, and I mean that you just keep producing great racing drivers, as we watch Mason. I'm sure his little brother's watching because he's the next one up, karting at the moment.
Yes, he's a very, very successful young karter, and he's been dabbling a bit on days here at Hampton Downs lately, getting into it, and he's a serious young talent as well. So it won't be long till he'll be out there racing his brother for the race wins.
Yeah, and he's already been spotted by some of the team managers in karting here in New Zealand, and they've got an eye on him, and that's the way to go. Grant McDonald, who helped Liam Lawson here this weekend, he's also looking after a youngster. Let's head down to Greg Russ.
Jonathan, I've wandered down to MTech, and I'm reluctant to turn David Brabham too much away from the monitor in the background. What's Pat saying on the radio? What kind of observations have you made?
Well, my heart's pounding, that's for sure. You know, this morning's qualifying didn't quite go to plan, but to see him bounce back and he's, you know, holding P3 like this is really impressive. So, you know, we'll have to see how the race goes out. But, yeah, so far so good. He's doing a great job.
With the time left, with the laps left, can he keep him at bay? Can he hold that spot?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But so far he's doing a good job. The pace up the front seems to be very similar to. So if he doesn't make a mistake, he should
be able to get the best possible run down to there. And that's what the thing is. The move is set up from all the way from turn 10, the last corner, all the way through turn 1, and then finally down into turn 2. So he'll be working on that one. The other spot is down to here, but he doesn't seem to be quite close enough through this part of the track. So I reckon if we're going to see it, it'll happen down into turn 2.
Mini lock-up going into the right-hander there, so the pressure starting to show a little bit. Light loads on the fuel coming up now, of course, and the tyres starting to go. 10 of the 18 gone, and it's tight between those three for the battle for third place. Huizenrode is so far doing a really good job, but he's creating a concertina effect by, as he holds off Lindblad, the others are catching up, and that's Brown, Pearson and Skula.
So this is where he needs to start setting the move up. He got a good run out of turn 10. He's getting the slipstream down into turn 1. Not quite close enough for a move into turn 1. He knows how important this turn 1 is. Needs to stay right in that slipstream, be focusing on getting on the gas as early as he possibly can to get the run out of there.
You said turn 2, and it looks as though he's like getting a slipstream and going for an inside move. Does he do it? Can't. Oh,
There's
yes!
a look.
Here we go. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. This is where he was so good on the first lap. Can and he squeezed around the outside. Well, he's trying. I'll give him that. Oh, and Huizenrode gives him enough room, but doesn't let him through. Good racing.
Great racing between the two of them. Now the problem for Lindblad is now he's had a go at that move once. Huizenrode now knows to cover that position just that little bit more. So he's had a go, but he needs to repeat it this lap to get it done, but just not quite far enough up ahead. It was a late lunge. He did all he could. He's obviously starting to think bigger picture, because if you go too hard into there, then you could end up locking up and then hitting the car in front. So he's racing safely as Lindblad, but he's also doing a fantastic job throwing it up the inside, but not quite enough that lap.
And you can see Brown just behind thinking, okay, you're going to fight with him. I'm going to wait till either of you make a mistake and then I'll lunge. So the two Red Bulls, line astern, Huizenrode doing a very good job. We heard from David Brabham, and he's fingers crossed and heart beating, as he would be, but I'm sure Huizenrode is right there too. But it's just good racing by the number 5. He's holding off the champ leader at the moment, and that is very impressive of 12 laps of pressure. But still, Lindblad comes into turn 1 again. This is where he's looked so good.
This is the important part from here, getting on the gas as early as he can. He's still close enough, but Huizenrode knows that he's going to be looking to the inside once again. Huizenrode moves over just a little bit. Is Lindblad going to fire it up the inside? Yes, he does.
That is a nice fire, and that was a classic textbook overtake. But back comes Huizenrode. Anything you can do, I can do too. And they're side by side. Wow, great racing. Lindblad just holds on.
Great move by him. Great racing by both cars. Hard, fair racing, but great move in the end by Lindblad to get it done at turn 2. Got the run off turn 1 and made it stick.
Yeah, good racing, and that's the racecraft of somebody who's been doing this quite a long time, Lindblad, and he's had a fantastic resume over the years, and it just gets better and better. Heading to F2, and therefore we see him as the benchmark for so many of these youngsters, because he will be with Campos. Locks up a little bit there, but it's okay. But yeah, they're all judging themselves on Lindblad at the moment. Nikita Johnson still hanging in there. The gap now 1.7 seconds to the leader, Sebastian Manson, who very much is controlling this race.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, just staying out front, staying consistent. So have a look once again. So you can see they're nearly at the point where they're on the brake. So just before the braking, you see Lindblad over to the right, got up the inside, slight lock-up, made it stick. A little bit wide, but then that was always going to be the case. If you're going to fire up the inside that hard, you're always going to end up running a little bit wide. Then just make sure he's just up the inside enough to keep the move on. And now we see him up into 3rd place.
And there's Arvid Lindblad's engineer, and watching on, Antonio Ortiz is his name. And yeah, and you could tell that Huizenrode was ready for him, because he really made a very nice inside move, knowing that that was going to happen.
Yeah, they've both done a great job there. And now the pressure from behind from Will Brown starts coming on. Will Brown seems a little bit quicker through this portion of the track. So they've got their strengths and weaknesses. One thing I noticed about Lindblad is he's very, very fast through the high-speed parts of the track. So whether the car's just got that little bit more, you know, bit more downforce set up on it, but at the same time he had that run down the straight, so he just seems a bit better on that high-speed stuff. Nice little inter-Kiwi battle for 11th and 12th, Statty and Bowling. They're 0.2 off each other, but quite some way off Crosby, who rounds out the top 10. There goes Crosby through your shot, and you can see the gap now to this battle coming through. There it is, Bowling and Statty, and right behind Statty is Zagazeta. It's not been an easy weekend for Matias Zagazeta of Peru. He shined brightly in the first round, got 2nd place, but that wing and just one problem. He banged into the back of shin, wasn't his fault. We watched Stephen Giles, watching Giles Motorsport and Will Brown try to put some heavy pressure on Huizenrode. See how hard Will Brown's pushing on the exit of that turn, using all the road he possibly could. He knows this is a weak point for Huizenrode down into turn 2. Rashid also having a look at Skula in 8th position, Skula 7th. Quiet race for Josh Pearson, the American. Yet to really shine as Pearson, but his times have been, well, he was lap record holder, wasn't he? The first race. And the
times are good pace, 1:29.6s. That's what they're averaging, the top 4. So they're all very much on the same pace, and that's been the story of the season so far. I don't know about you, Andrew, but in all my time of doing this, I have not seen closer times in all the practices and testings as I've seen here.
And just how much they've improved as well, year on year. They're just getting faster and faster. Obviously, we had a tyre switch not last year, year before, so that's obviously a bit of a reset there, but how much they've learned with this new tyre, and these times are really starting to come down. And just looking at that gap as well between Nikita Johnson and Seb Hansen, it is starting to narrow up just a little bit. It's 2/10 on that last lap, so that gap is slowly starting to come down as well, as you can see on shot here.
Yeah, Nikita's definitely taken, what, 6/10 out of him in the last few laps, and now you can see the gap for yourself. Whether it's Manson just letting it off a little bit and giving a little less pressure to himself and not forcing himself into a mistake, or Nikita has just put the hurry up on and decided it's time to push.
Oh, you can hear some slight little lockups on the way into turn 2. Very, very easily done. And the other one in behind as well is Lindblad. He's starting to close that gap just a little bit. Last lap was a 29.1 versus a 29.4. So Lindblad was 0.3 of a second quicker than the 2 cars in front. So with a few laps to go, I reckon he's got a chance of getting on the back of these guys.
I talked to Nikita Johnson before the start of this race, and he was a little concerned about his clutch. In fact, he said it was wearing thin simply because he just wasn't getting the starts. He got a great start this time, but Manson definitely got the better of him, and I'm sure he'd be pretty frustrated right now, and that's why he's pushing on. Gap 1.1, as we say. Lindblad coming fast, and it really is those 3. Huizenroda's got his own battle now with Brown and Pearson, but it is the battle for the top 3 that we're watching into the last complex. And we'll see them come up the hill and start lap 16 with a couple to go after this. And let's just see what the gap is now and just how far Lindblad has made. The gap was 3 seconds. And it's still 1.2, but it's 2.9. Lindblad just taking a 10th on that lap.
Yeah, another 10th and a half that lap. Just a little bit more. It's actually not going to be quite enough if he keeps this up to be able to catch the guys in front. But you can see as well, Johnson, he's pressing on. He wants to close that gap up just that little bit more. But on that last lap, actually, Seb Hansen did a good job. He was a 10th quicker than what Johnson was.
Lindblad on the pace, though. Look, just did his fastest lap at 1:29.032. That's the best lap time. Pretty impressive, and it's always helpful when you've got less fuel to go maybe a little faster, depending on how the tyres are acting underneath.
That last lap here for Lindblad was definitely the fastest lap of the race, and then also on top of that, this lap here is even quicker again. He's just set a purple Sector 1 with a 16.3.
Yeah, that's impressive. Very impressive, especially at this stage in the race. And like you say, he needs to be doing that almost every sector if he's going to catch him.
And these tyres are over an hour old now. They've done a lot of racing. So they're certainly getting into the end of their life.
Simon Poole from Pirelli coming over from Australia to oversee the racing here, and Pirelli, as we all know, top-notch. They are in Formula 1 and all the way through motorsport. Well, Will Brown can certainly leave these shores with his tail high. Depending on what happens in the feature race, he's really put on a great show. And I'm sure a lot of the Australian supercar drivers, including Thomas Randall, who raced here, will have been watching and observing and thinking, I wouldn't mind a crack at that, because he's shown well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's certainly showing that it's a great thing to be able to come over here, be part of this championship, and huge kudos for Will for effectively putting his reputation on the line to come and do this and be part of this championship. But either way, no matter how his results were going to go, this is only good for him heading into a supercar season to be fresh. He's going to be 3 race weekends in compared to other drivers that have done nothing heading into the season. So no matter what way you want to look at it, this is good for Will.
And it doesn't do any harm that he's racing a Ferrari at Bathurst in the 12 hours, so this is a good preparation for that, and that's why he's heading back, but he'll be back for Highlands and the Grand Prix.
Bring it on, the New Zealand Grand Prix at Highlands. Always a spectacular weekend, that one, as we count down 2 more rounds after this one before we do head to Highlands, but this championship is certainly shaping up to be an interesting one.
Don't think we're going to see too much action before the end of this race. Brown might make a lunge and make it a go at Huizenrode for 4th place. Lindblad 1.6 seconds off Nikita Johnson, who is 1.4 seconds off Manson, who has controlled brilliantly. The young man from New Zealand, obviously backed by his father's company, a well-known name in New Zealand, but now, and his dad, of course, a racer himself, but now Sebastian is making his name. He's raced a little bit in the States, he's raced in Japan, and now a full season of TRS will do him no harm. He's still a youngster, still a teenager, and this is going to help a lot, isn't it?
It certainly is. Any win is a boost to your confidence, and the way that Seb has driven in this race, no mistakes all race. He's controlled that gap beautifully out in front.
Here he comes then. The heat haze rising. A beautiful day here at Hampton. The breeze just keeping things cool. Good crowd watching on. And it'll be really pleasing for them to see Skula win in Taupo. And now another Kiwi on his way to win here at Hampton Downs.
2 more corners to navigate. Focusing on the exit of turn number 9 there. Heading down towards the last corner. All he needs to do is focus on this corner here. Get the car in. Patience in the middle.
Nikita has taken some time at him on that last lap, and it won't be enough. And the run up the hill, here he comes. Sebastian Manson is going to take victory in race 2. He sees the checkered flag and takes the checkered flag in style. A flag-to-flag victory for the young man from New Zealand. Sebastian Manson wins at home. Nikita Johnson takes 2nd place, and Arvid Lindblad takes 3rd. Another podium for the Brit, but a first win for Manson on the board for M2 competition. Well, Manson can be happy with that. And Tim Neff, incidentally, looking after him. Tim Neff, TJ Speed, a team manager in his own right in the USA, and the Australian helping young Manson out.
That certainly helps out Lindblad's championship as well. That extends his championship lead even more as we have a look at the results.
And there you see it, confirmation. Race winner, Sebastian Manson. Then Nikita Johnson 2nd for the USA. Arvid Lindblad of Great Britain 3rd. Huizenrode of Australia 4th. Will Brown of Australia 5th. Pearson of USA 6th. Skula of New Zealand 7th. Rashid of the States in 8th. Michael Shin of South Korea 9th. Alex Crosby of Invercargill, New Zealand in 10th. Then it's Jet Bowling of Dallas, Texas in 11th. Matthias Zagazeta of Peru is 12th. Stati of Australia 13th. Enzo Ye of Taiwan 14th. Nicholas Montiero of Brazil 15th. James Lawley of Canada 16th. And Barrett Wolf of the USA in 17th place. Here's the highlights then, and right from the get-go, Nikita Johnson actually got away well, but Manson was equal to the task, and watch him go round the outside. He slots into 2nd, but it wasn't long before he turned in nicely. Slight mistake actually by Nikita, probably slightly cold on the tyres, and that gave it away. But look at Lindblad, right up to 4th place early on. Really no real drama. There was pressure from Lindblad on Huizenrode, and finally that nice little dice ended with Lindblad getting through with a great lunge at turn 2, as you predicted, Andrew. Huizenrode did come back at him, and I thought he might have held on, but Lindblad just kept his foot in, and the Red Bull man went through. Will Brown, try as he might, just couldn't make any inroads on Huizenrode, but it was Manson who just held on, kept a cool head on young shoulders, and that's exactly what Mark Pilcher, Jonathan Morey and the team wanted. Another win for M2, the most successful team in single-seater racing here in New Zealand. And he's got the hips to give the shake and give the celebration. Well done, Sebastian. And you can see, he hasn't got the helmet off yet, but you can see how happy he is just by the body language. Well done to him.
It's a massive boost of confidence for him to come out of this race and move on for the rest of the championship. Nothing beats being able to win a race, seeing the competitors around you that you've been out there and beaten and raced fairly against is certainly going to help him massively for this championship.
And as he heads over, let's celebrate with him and enjoy listening to him, as in a moment, Stephen MacGyver will get to talk to him.
Yeah, his team just reminded him to put the wheel back in, pal. Genuinely a great result here for Sebastian Manson. When you think in 2024 he was racing Formula Regional, did super well there. But Seb, congratulations on a beautifully controlled race. How good, winning at home in front of mum and dad.
Yeah, it feels great. Probably shouldn't be that excited about a reverse grid race, but yeah, still feels good.
Mate, come on, it's a winner's a win against the class of the field here. When you went into the race knowing you're off the front, great pass early. When you got to the front, were their nerves were going, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah, sort of went quite aggressive with the strategy, so sort of had to pull a gap at the start, and then yeah, just tried to maintain it throughout the race.
When you race on a track that you've been on before, do you feel like sometimes, I know the little place so I can pick up some speed?
Yeah, obviously know this inside and out, and yeah, just tried to keep it cool, calm, and smooth.
Keep the smile on your face, mate. You've won a race in Formula Regional and at home.
Sweet, thank you.
Well done, Sebastian Manson. And P2, Nikita Johnson. Youngest man on the grid at 16, but certainly not to be messed with. Congratulations on P2. You get past early, but what was the plan from then on in?
Just trying to see if I could have a shot at him at the end. We knew that he would be a little bit faster or have a little bit more pace because we were running yesterday's tires. But Seb did a great job. You know, he forced me into a mistake in turn 2. I thought there was going to be a little bit more grip there, but it's okay. But yeah, after that, I just try to keep my head down and try to stay as close as I could to him.
How are you finding this championship right now and the competition in it?
There's a lot of competition this year. I mean, all the tracks we go to are pretty cool. It's nice to be able to drive a nice car, so I like it so far.
Well done, mate.
Thank you.
And in P3, your championship leader, Arvid Lindblad. I've got to say, we've seen some crazy racing today, some beautiful racing, but going from P8 to P3, that was a joy to watch.
Yeah, it was fun to drive. I mean, I didn't have much expectation going into this race. I know obviously we've seen that passing is quite difficult in general in this car and around this track. So yeah, I didn't have much expectation, but the start was really good. It kind of all freed up, and yeah, I was up to 5th and then 4th, and then Patrick was quite hard to pass. He was defending well. It's not easy here with the bumps and stuff, but I got kind of fed up and thought I had to commit at some point. So yeah, I kind of sent it in turn 2 and yeah, made it stick. It was a bit hairy, but no, it was a good move. And then yeah, started. That was the race.
I was going to ask you, how patient are you? Are you one of those drivers that wants to get on with it, or when you couldn't get him first lap, then lap 12 you get him? You said right now I've got to go.
Yeah, I mean, in these, it's not easy to pass in these cars. So when you get the opportunity, you kind of have to go because you don't know if you're going to get another one. So I was a bit too hesitant in the beginning, and then there was one lap I wanted to go and he defended, and then the next lap I made sure that I was in. So yeah,
it was a great watch. Well done.
Thank you.
Alrighty, time for the podium, race 2, round 2 in the Castrol Toyota Formula Regional Oceania Championship and the Alliance of Services Hampton Downs International. Trophies today presented by Paul McKenzie, the Regional Manager of Castrol New Zealand. And in 3rd place, Arvid Lindblad. In 2nd place, Nikita Johnson. And in 1st place, he's one of your own from New Zealand. Give it up for Sebastian Manson. And that is your official podium for race 2, round 2 of the Castrol Toyota Formula Regional Oceania Championship.
Thank you, Stephen, and one that Sebastian Manson will remember for a long time. He moves to 8th in the championship, but he's now just 1 point off being 6th. So another good race later today, but it's Arvid Lindblad on 129 who leads the way. Schooler still 2nd on 108. Will Brown is 3rd, and that's good news for Nikita Johnson, who's on 92, just 1 behind Will. And with Will heading back over the pond, over the ditch, he will be in 3rd position. Pearson still 5th with 88, and Zagazeta still 6th. Huizenrode 7th. Manson, as we mentioned, there right where he needs to be in 8th, and that will move him forward. Shin, Rashid, and Enzo Ye with 47. Then it's Crosby bowling on 35. Some good competition also at the back of the field between those fighting for position and points, and it's all the way through the field. Everybody trying to score as many as they can. We'll take a short break here at the Alliance Services Hampton Downs International. Join us after